All right, so yeah, today's topic, as I mentioned, okay, app development with some simple database integration. All right, so I was looking around, I saw, it involves some data. So I'm gonna just talk about this very typical and common um, uh, topic related with calories and nutrition and food health. Okay, just assume that we're gonna make an app that allows you to query and manage some of the common food, to look at their calories, serving amount, and also be able to manage adding some of those. Okay, very simple concept. All right. So, for app like this, always what I recommend is that we start with some of the, give me 1 second, let me minimize this. Yeah, we start with some of the very simple design like wireframe. And then think about if this is your app, and then you might start from a splash screen, which is basically just a logo. We already showed you that. And then once you get into the app, I'll make it very simple. Okay, only 3 screens. This one probably will be a food list. Okay, and that's gonna list all the food. In the very typical like list view. All right, so here we're gonna show the some information, maybe like some calorie or maybe some images. Okay. All right. All right. It's very standard. And then if you click on one of them, this will go to the food details screen. Basically the same information, but show that in a very nicer, bigger screen. So again, name, calorie, and then image, or maybe the image first, or some other descriptions. All right, so that's just a detailed page. So this is the keynote, just like a PowerPoint. Okay, same thing. This is the macro Apple's PowerPoint. All right, and then also I want to show you how you can edit the data. So maybe I'll also add a little like edit box here, so you can add more food. Okay, so here. Okay, so this is add, and then here you're gonna type the food name, and then calorie, and or maybe some other information. Okay, image. All right, so very simple. Okay, so if you have this, then the way that works is that from the splash screen, it's gonna go to this home screen, and then if you click on one of them, that's gonna bring you to the details screen. All right, so super straightforward. Okay, now with that, we're gonna make the app step by step. All right, so open Thunkable and start a new project. We'll call it food calorie app. Okay, so category. I'll still put in allocation, and then I'll just create. Right. So for all the basic stuff about Thunkable, just try to follow that official YouTube channel, and they have a lot of very high quality videos to show you different features. And also another good way is whenever you need to do some specific thing, just Google that. You probably can find either the video or some of the text-based tutorials. All right. Now once you have the app like this, we're gonna follow the design we created, and then just make it step by step. Okay. So the first one is splash screen. So that one is very simple. I already showed you last time that you can drag labels. All right. Then you can do some decorations. I think we show that one, and then make font size bigger. Okay. Right. And then if you do want to have some other logo, just do an image. That's also pretty straightforward. Okay, so for images, let's just Google something very quick. All right, so we can get some icons. All right, so for example, yeah, I mean, this looks good. So we're gonna try to copy this image and borrow that for our app. So go here, I put a picture, type a URL. Yeah, so that works. Very straightforward. So just use the URL and that's gonna work. Okay. All right, to make it simple, I'm going to add a button so to trigger to the next screen. You can also program so that it automatically goes to the next screen after 2 or 3 seconds, but not important here. So start. Okay, so whenever I click on button, we're going to go to the next screen. So going back to my design, the next screen will be the food list. All right, so creating the next screen. All right, so this one is going to show the list of food. All right, so I'll go back here to program and the start button. So if this button is ever clicked, and then we're going to go to control and then navigate to the next screen. So all the blocks are very straightforward and just read it, and it's all kind of a self-explaining. Okay, once you have this, let's test it. So run, and this is the app. All right, click on start and go to the next screen. So very simple and straightforward. All right. So the key part I want to show is where do we get all the list? You're not going to manually put this one row by row. Okay, this is an apple, you know, and this is like one serving and how much calorie and all of this. Okay, you can do this, but that's not going to scale. Okay, and then you gotta add the next one. Okay, you type another one. That's too hard. Okay, so that's not gonna work because you got hundreds of those. You have to create this also one by one, and yeah, time consuming, very tedious, also very hard to maintain and manage. You know, what if I want to delete one of them? What if I have more things added? So you can't always go back here to add more labels to show those, right? So we definitely need a better approach. Okay, so normally to handle things like this in computer science, we tend to put all the data separately into a database, right? So if you go here, sometimes you see a kind of a shape like this. Normally that means a database. All right, so database is basically a software that storing all the data. And it's a dedicated software only deals with data, with large amount of data, so that it's very easy and efficient for user to use to manage all the data. Specifically, how do you create and add data? How do you edit all the data? How do you delete the data? And then more importantly, how do you search and query data? Okay, so with the database software, database application, you can do all of this in a very simple way. So almost every software needs some kind of a database, you know, whether it's the academic system would be using at schools or some of the social media apps, you know, all this tons of data, they are all stored in the database. Yeah. Some of the famous database systems, and then the most famous one will be Oracle. That company pretty much they make database. That's their main product. They make most of money just from the database applications. And in the past, Microsoft had something called SQL Server, and this is also a database application. And then, but these are all the old traditional big database systems. These days, there are a lot of things that's lighter, cheaper. Some of those are open source and free. You might have heard something called MongoDB, and that's a database system very popular in the past 5-10 years. It's free to use, very fast, and also it's lighter and simpler, right? But anyway, whenever you heard the term database, you know that's being used to save a large amount of data in a structured way, and it's very easy to use and query and manage all the data. Okay, and then, but a lot of these are very professional. Okay, so if you say, oh, I don't want to, touch too much about this, I just want to apply something and quickly and use that in my application for some of the simple features. I don't know, want to learn how to deploy all this database and took another course. Most of the undergrad program have a dedicated course to teach about database systems. All right, so there are definitely some simpler ways. Microsoft Office has something called Access. Right. This, I don't know, some of you probably have used this one before. This is basically a very simple and lightweight database. All right, so if you open it, it's very straightforward. It's basically all the tables and columns, and then you can use that one to save all different kind of data. Okay, so it's not as scalable as a professional database system, but it is a professional and complete database systems. All right, but sometimes people find this is still overwhelming. Okay, I gotta learn your software. Since this you're just talking about table. What if I just use Excel sheet? What if I use Google Sheet? Right, so basically same the same purpose. All right, so that's what I'm going to show you today. If you want to use any kind of database for Thunkable primarily, I would highly recommend you just go to Google Sheets, create our database there, and then everything will be working. All right, so let me show you how you do it. In order to do that, you got to go to a Google Drive, and then let's just create a new Google Sheets, just regular one using your account, and give a name. All right, and then to make it easy, it's always good to add some header to indicate the type of the column. All right, so I just Google some this public database. There's for name, there is a serving amount, there is calories. Okay, so we'll do the same. So this is called food, serving, and then calorie. Okay, so I'll just try to copy some of those. Apple 195. Okay. Right, and then let's do, yeah, we'll say one apple. All right, and then let's do other banana 1. Okay, and then just do one more. Cherries 1, and that's 4. All right, just do straight first. Okay, so that's what the table looks like. And then we can also do a image. Let me show you that later. Okay, let's start from this one. Very simple. Okay, these are titles, and then the rows represent different data records. Everyone knows how to do it. And now what we want to do to show it here in the app. Okay, so first of all, let me delete this. Here. Okay, so to show that, and then you will need a different kind of widget to do that. And Thunkable make it very simple. So there are two things you can use. One is called a data viewer list. One is called a data viewer grid. Okay, so we're gonna use one of this, probably the viewer list. But before we do that, we need to make sure that we import all the data or the Google Sheet into this app, because this is a Thunkable application and this is a Google Sheets. They have no connection between the two. These are different company, different software, though they don't know how to talk to each other. So we need to make sure we import the data into this app so that we can program using the data. So on the left, you see there's the data tab and there's the data sources. Okay, what we need to do right now is click on add. Okay, and then there are some of the things I used before. This is the test I did earlier. So I'm going to create a brand new one. And then there are different ways for you to create data. So in this case, I'm going to use Google Sheets. I click on this. Now you can give a name. I'll call this new food database. And which row stores the headers? So that's row number 1. And then which row is the very first row containing data? And that's row number 2. So we're going to leave that as default. And then there's a button for you to select the Google Sheets. It automatically connects your Google account. And then choose the one you use. This is the new food database. And then select. All right. And then we're going to create. All right. So now you have this new food database. Okay. So once that one is done, we can go back to the designer. As I mentioned, in this case, I will need something to show all the data in the list. So in this case, I'm going to use the data viewer list. Okay, so let's get the right size. Active link. So Nathan, just to clarify, are you talking about this one here? Yeah, it definitely uses a link. It actually asks your permission, your Google permission. I already done that one, but the first time you use that one, they ask your permission to allow Thunkable to access that Google Sheet from your Google Drive account.
So it's dynamic in nature in terms of like if I update the sheet, it'll automatically grab that without having to reload it.
Yes, yes.
All right, yeah. Thank you.
All right, no problem. So let's see. I'll show you a demo about that. And then right here, okay, so let's make the right size because we may need some space for the editing at the top. So I'll make the list first. Okay, so this widget is actually well integrated with the data sources. So if you see on the right-hand side here, if you click on this data list viewer, and there's a data source selection. So you click on this, and it automatically pop up the data source that you have imported. And in this case, it's a new food database. All right. So once you click on that, and they ask you to choose which tab to use. I think we only have one, so that's the default one. All right. And then this one is very important. They ask you to choose a kind of a layout you want to use for that specific row, because this is the list view. It goes by rows. Every row follows the same layout, but you can choose and change. So you click on that, you can see you could choose a very simple, just one title. You can choose the title with a subtitle. You can do a title with image, title, subtitle, image, and there's one more text, and then you can do even bigger view. Okay, this one has an image, title, subtitle, text. Okay, so they have created some template for you to use, and then most of the time it should be enough. Okay, so since we have a 3 pieces of information, okay, I might just start from, let me show you a simple one. Let's start from the title and subtitle first. Okay, let's just start from this one. All right, so once you decide that one, you need to provide the data for the 2 attributes. Okay, one for the title. So title is the text, so they basically pop up the text and ask you to choose where does the text come from. So if you click on this, now as you can see, they automatically figure out your columns. So food serving calories. The reason they show this is because in my Google Sheets, that's the title I have put in the top. And if you remember when you import the data source, they did ask you if the first row is the headers, and the answer is yes. So that's where they pop up these names. Okay, so I'm going to choose the food as the title. For the subtitle, I'll try to use calories. Right, so that's it. Now, once you have this, so the app will know how to render every row, and they're going to basically looking at all the rows you have and show all of this as rows in the list view. And it's super simple, right? So let's see if that works. So I'm going to restart the app and then run the app. All right, and then click on start. All right, so that is not working. All right, so let's double check if everything is good. So go back here, click on this. That is a data source, and that is a food. Let me make sure everything here is right. Okay, so um, food, calories. Yeah, there's nothing wrong here. So let me maybe rerun this.
Hey, can you go back to the data source on the left-hand side over there? Does it have to click that, like check mark it?
Yeah, so
It wasn't check marked originally, so I was just
but this one definitely is, as you can see, it connect correctly. Okay, so everything is right here. I'm not sure if this force row is going to cause any problem, but I don't think so. It's okay. I don't think that's a problem. So let's see. Because this one definitely shows everything is good. Okay, you think it still works. Okay, let's try it again. Go back, click on this. That's a data source. Let's just rerun it. Okay, I was testing this one just 20 minutes ago. Or let's change a different layout. Okay, so I go here. I will change a different one. This time I will do one with the image. So picture we don't have anything, but this is the food still, and this is the calories. Okay, so I'm gonna run this also one more time. All right, interesting. So let me change to a different data source. Okay, let me add another one. So this is the one I did earlier, same thing. Okay. Sure if you can delete it. Okay, so let me change a different one. This one is the fruit, and oh, this one worked. So there's something wrong with the one we're adding. Okay, and I do the calorie. So the other one I created earlier was exactly the same thing. So this is the one I just created before the class. It might be an issue related with the data type, or maybe the serving date, but we're not even using that. Okay, so this one does work. This one has a two, and as you can see, it just automatically shows up. All right, so let me run the app. So go here, start, and they have the two records here in the table. Okay, so not sure if anything wrong I did with the data source. Let me re-add this. Okay, I'm gonna create a new one. So new food two. All right, select the sheet, and we're gonna use this new food database. All right, and then create. Okay, let me refresh. Yeah, so this one still works. And let me go back here. I'll change the data source. Yeah, I think this time it works. So this is a food, and this is a calorie. All right. So anyway, so there must be something wrong I did with the importing, but it's pretty once it works very straightforward. As you can see, the name and then the calories showing up. Because this layout only had two taxes. That's why you can only do two. But then if you change a different one, okay, let's see if I use this one, they have three tags. So then that way you could say, okay, here is the serving, and here is a calorie. All right, so everything is automatically shown up. So let's test the updates. Okay, so if you do, I'm gonna click on close this one. Okay, I'll add the next one. So that is 1 and then 320. All right, so I add another one and then coming here, refresh. It's kind of automatically refreshed, so it shows one more. Okay, so going back to the app, run it, start, and then show all the information. Okay, so that way you only put one data list viewer, and it's going to handle as many record that you have. All right. So the image here also pretty simple. If you want to show the image, all you need to do is put a URL. So if I go here, I'll put the image URL. Okay, and then all you need to do is put the URLs there. Let's try those. Okay, so Apple icon. All right, so let's try some of this. This is large. I'll get a smaller one. Okay, so that's one. And no, this probably doesn't work. I'm gonna change a different one. Okay, let's see if this one works. Okay, so we'll put one more attributes here, one more column, and then you go back to the viewer, and then you click on the picture. Okay, so I think we need to sync. Okay, so go back here. Let's sync with the source. All right, so now we got this one extra URL here. That way, inside the app, we'll be able to load it. Okay, so for some reason, they refresh it. Let me refresh it. Okay, so go back. So picture, and I'm going to choose image URL. All right, so that works. So super simple. Okay, so let's test it. So go here and run it and start, and everything is showing up. And you can just add as many you want. It's all going vertically, and then it will also allows you to scroll once you hit to the bottom part of the screen. All right. So that's basically a very quick demonstration of how you put the Google Sheets, the data there into your app. Using list view, it's very easy. And then if you want to use the other one, it's called a grid view. It's exactly the same thing, but this this one just put everything into like a grid. It can be 3 by 3. I think you can adjust all the number of columns. Right. So any questions so far? Yeah, search bar. I think so. Let's. I'll look into that. Okay, so a search bar. I'm gonna show you how do we add things to the table. Okay. In terms of search, that's a very good question. Okay, I'm trying to figure out. All right. So let's try something later on. Okay. So I'll yeah. Let me see another question. Mhm. So Meryl, just to clarify, so are you talking about putting multiple rows into the Google Sheets?
Yeah, sorry. I think maybe this isn't what we're talking about right now, but maybe later we could talk about how we could take this data and then update it into Google Sheets or
Oh,
like it.
I see. So sorry, you're talking about updating the data here.
That's correct, but using the app.
Yes, yeah, of course, of course. So right now, that's why I'm only showing the read feature. So you're reading data from the database.
Got it.
But
I'm sorry about that. Yeah.
oh no, no problem. So for sure, you need to know how to modify the data there as well.
Mhm.
Okay. So anyway, let's do one more about a read. So as I mentioned in the design, the next screen will be another read, which is going to show you the specific information for that food. All right. So if I go here, let's add one more screen. And then this one, we're going to show the same information, image, title, serving, and calorie. So the same thing, but this case is going to be just a more dedicated, simple screen here. So we need four things. We also have an image. So I'm going to put an image, maybe right here. Looks a little nicer. All right, so here is the image. All right, so we might need to give them some name, otherwise it's very hard to read it later on. Okay, so this is the name, and this is the serving. And then this one is the calorie. All right. Now, this time, again, if you want to show the data here, that depends on what you are clicking here. So there had to be some kind of correlation between the two screens. And also, if you are familiar with functions, you know, the input and output. So the moment you click on the item here, it should send all that data over to the next screen. Okay, let's see how we can do that. So that will obviously need some code. So I go to blocks and I go to the data viewer list. And then the good thing about this one is that they already built in a lot of things that you might need. So if you go to the top, and there's something called when this list view is clicked. All right, so that's obviously the one we want to do. And then the cool thing about this is that once you go to this block, they will tell you which row you are clicking on. And that's the specific row ID from the Google Sheets. So that will indicate in this sheet which one you're clicking on. All right. So if you know that, all you need to do is just to pass this row ID over to the next screen. And then in the screen 3, we just need to load that specific data based on that row ID, and then everything will be able to show up. All right, so let's try that. Okay, so go back here. I need to navigate. All right, so let me do this. So we're going to navigate to the next screen, the screen 3, which is going to show all the details. All right. But for the screen three, once they open, we need to know which one was clicking on. So there involves some kind of a data passing. For Thunkable, what you need is just create a variable. Okay, I'm going to create a variable, and this one is going to be called a selected food ID. All right. Initially, it's just empty. But once you click on that, we are going to set this variable called wait, why it doesn't have a, oh, this one here. We can just use this one. Okay. So we will set this variable to the row ID, and then we navigate. All right. So just to clarify this one more time. So I have a dedicated variable called select food ID. Whenever you click on item, so we know the row ID, we put this row ID to this variable. So we go to the next screen. So that way, in screen 3, we will just need to look at this variable called selected for the ID, and now I will know which one you click on. So let's test it. So for example, when this one, we'll say that there is something for the screen. So we'll see when this screen opens. All right. So right now, this screen doesn't show anything. Okay, let me test it. So I'm going to start from here. I'll test. So right now, if I click on one of them, it actually does open the next one, but this one shows nothing. Okay, but then we need to program it. So I go to the screen 3. I will say if the screen 3 opens, I want to see if you are passing that selected food ID. So I'll just randomly use the name for now. Okay, name, set this name to be that specific variable. Okay, so let's see what happens. So I go back here. I click on Apple. And then next one, it shows this long ID. Okay, so we don't need to worry about what that ID is. That basically indicate that specific role you selected. All right, so if we try a different one, I click on the last one, and this one shows a different ID. Okay, so that kind of proves that every time you click on something, it actually goes for that specific information from the Google Sheets. All right, so our next thing to do is that if I know the ID, then what does that mean? How do I pull the actual content? Okay, so we have to look into the data source to see what they provide to us. So I click on the data source. Okay, so they have a lot of blocks for us to operate on the data. So as you can see, we just need to load them. And obviously the first one looks very promising. It's something called a get value from this food database. And then you need to provide that specific ID, which we already have here. Okay, so looks like this one allows us to get the whole value from there. And then here, oh yeah, so they even allows you to choose which column you want to show. Okay, so everything is straightforward, very well integrated. All right, so but we need to choose the last one here. Okay, so anyway, let me show you this. I'm going to use this one to replace it. Okay, so this time when the screen opens, the purple blocks is going to use this data source and try to find a specific role which is indicated by the previous click, and then pull the name column, which is called food, and use that one to display for the label. All right, so let's test. So I go back from here, let's run it. We click on banana, go to the next screen, and you can see that actually changed it to banana because we know which one you're clicking on, and then we use that ID to put that record again. All right, so in the same way, we can just duplicate the blocks. So there are 4 things to set. Let's do the 3 ones first. Serving and calorie. So this one go to serving, and then this one use calorie. All right. We also need to deal with that image. That's also pretty easy. So this one is just set an image picture to be the image URL. All right. So that's it. So let's try it one more time. So this time I'm going to click on cherries, and all of these are updated. Okay. I think we need a button to go back. Okay. So let's go back to the design. And here the screen 3. Sorry, I might be running this too fast, but I have the recording. Okay, so you can just see the flow, and once you start to try, you can always follow the same steps. So this one, let's go back. All right, and then I will create something for the button. So if you click on that, we will navigate back to screen 2. All right, so that's it. So try one more time. So for fruits, avocado, and everything is displayed, then go back. I click on apple, and everything's got it, and then cherry. All right. So same amount of data, but you use that for different places, and just super simple. Honestly, the same thing if you want to program using the native mobile development, whether it's Android or iOS, it probably takes 10 times longer than this. Okay, so very straightforward. Any questions? Yeah, for the filters and search, I'm sure it's doable. Okay, so we can probably investigate that later. All right. Yeah, so if not, I'm trying to show you how to edit stuff. Okay, so this is the read only. Most of the time, your app is mostly reading the data from database. Okay, so if you do not want to deal with editing data from the app, then this one should be good to go. All you need to do is go here to change other things, and then it's always going to be updated in the app. Okay, but if you say I want to add more things so that the user can also help me to input data, so what we can do is we can let's try that. Okay, we can just enable some just input, right? So you need some input boxes. Okay, so this one we are going to use this one for food name, and the same way. Okay, so this one we will do that for serving, and this one will do it for calorie. All right. Images, yeah, we can also do images. Let's see. Okay, and then we need a button to confirm. Okay, so this is to add. Right. So for this, let's rename them so that's easier to see. So this is name, and this is serving, and this is carry, and lastly, it's a URL. All right, so we got all of these input boxes, and then it's time to code, right? So what we want is that whenever you click on this button to add, yeah, it's a little bit laggy here. Okay, so we click on the button. We need to add a row into our Google Sheets. So in order to do that, you still need to go to find the data source block here. Click on this, and we just showed you how you get a specific value. You can do update. You can also do, as you can see, create a row. Okay, so that's exactly what we want. So very straightforward. So I create a row, and then you need to supply a food, a serving calorie. Not sure why it doesn't give me the image URL. Oh, maybe I chose wrong. I need to choose this one. Okay, so that one has URL. Okay, so probably you figure out how to do it. So this will be coming from the first input, and you're trying to get the actual text. Okay. All right, so I'll just duplicate. Okay, so the next one will be serving. Next one will be calories. And then finally, we got a URL. And that's it. Okay, you do that and then you click. And there is a do block, just want you to do something to confirm if something's successful added. And then I don't know if we can show a dialogue or something. Yeah, alert. Let's try that. I'm gonna do alert. Okay, I'll say item added. All right, successfully. All right, let's click on that. So I create an alert. I'll just show it. Okay, so if this is added to the database successfully, we're gonna show the alert. All right, so going back to the app, let's try it now. So run it. Okay, so let's do another one. So it's 62, all right. 62. Oh wait, this is 62. All right, so let's get another image. Back and copy paste. No, this doesn't work. Let's actually change a different image. All right, so let's see what happened. Okay, I'm gonna click on add. Right now, this data sheet only has 4 rows, and then this time I'm clicking on add. All right, so added successfully, confirm, and then going back to my table, and that's the record being added. All right, so coming from the app. All right, so not difficult at all. All right, so if you understand this one, if you go back to the code, you can also see the data source. It also allows you to do update. So if you don't want to create a new one, you update the existing one. If you update, you need to provide that ID. You can also do delete. All right, so create, update, delete, and then get. That's basically the major things you do for a database. Right? Yeah, hopefully that helps, guys. Any questions? Yes, these are free, so there's no limitation for this. So as I mentioned, the feature wise, Thunkable is all free. The only thing deals with the paid version is when it comes to publishing. You want to put it in the Apple Store to Google Play. If we don't have paid version, it might limit. Right. So for filters, I haven't worked on this one before, but I'm sure it's possible. Yeah, there's absolutely. So this is, if you've been using Scratch, it's exactly the same thing. It's probably even simpler than Scratch. Yeah, and then the data part, yeah, the first time you do it, you need to figure out the correlation, some of the small issues and bugs. But once you've done it once, it's really easy. All right, so for the filter, I don't see anything here. All right, let's see if there's anything on the code. Yeah, if not, you will need to get all the values and then do the filter manually and then send it into the list. And then once you have that one, you can set it to this list view. Okay, I can show a demo next time, but I don't want to overwhelm too much. So because that would require some more code. Because the way it works is that this, you should be able to specify the, let me see the data source. Refresh. No, probably it doesn't work that way. Okay. Yeah, let me Google very quick. It's called data viewer list. Right, so it looks like there's some kind of filter options. And also, I believe you can always filter here, okay, from the Google Sheet. And you can also create, some of the one person mentioned here, you can also create different copies of the Google Sheet and then to store different type of things. That's already being filtered. That pretty much is going to work also. All right. Anyway, guys, so yeah, this is like to do the filter manually. So they iterate all the items and then do the delete and add stuff. So it's definitely a need extra work, but yeah, we can definitely play around with it. All right. So anyway, guys, so hopefully you see how things are working with the data part, because all the other UI, navigation, the basic app features, those are very simple. Okay, you drag and drop, put the code, and play around, it's gonna work. But then the database part, if you never done things like this for the first time, you probably don't know where to go. Yeah, I just wanted you to see that the Google Sheet make it very simple. Okay, for the same kind of demos, I think you can find a lot of those from the YouTube. Just simply Google this. Okay, so there are tons of examples available. Some of those probably can do very complicated things. All right. Okay, yeah, so let me actually stop recording first. Okay, I'll get a short one.